Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, this is going to be my very first build guide for Diablo 2 Annihilus, a mod that is currently in closed beta. If you want access to it, I would heavily suggest checking out Graxy TV's video in the description, as that will give you all of the info you need on how to play this mod currently. But we're going to be talking about the build that I decided to start the new season with, and that is going to be cooldown Druid. That's it. CD Druid for short. The idea here is we're running 4 different skills that all have cooldowns, and we're trying to run as much cooldown recovery speed as possible. Now, normally in normal Diablo 2, you can only get to, I believe, 50% cooldown recovery speed, which wouldn't really be enough to make this build function, in my humble opinion. But thankfully, with Annihilus, there is a mechanic where you have boss souls. So for instance, you have one for, Endariel, you have one for Duriel, you have one for all of the major bosses in the campaign, and a few others in later content. And they all have special abilities based on how many souls you've gotten. And Endariel's gem is very specific, as it has a mod that reads, instead of being at 50%, you're at 75% cooldown recovery speed cap, meaning that we can build all the way up to 75% cooldown recovery speed, which means our tornado has like less than a 1 second cooldown, our volcano has a 1.6 second cooldown, and then our fissure has a low cooldown, and so is our maelstrom. This leads us to be able to spam as much as possible. So simply put, tornado is clear and for single target. We put down a tornado, and with all of our area of effect scaling, it hits the entire screen. It's absurd, right? So wherever you place it, it gets placed everywhere. Just to note, though, it's really weird with the placement. Sometimes you can accidentally place it on like terrain and it won't show up. So in maps that are more closed in, you have to be more careful of where you aim the tornado. Otherwise, you waste a cast, quote unquote. That's really cool. It's cold damage. Then we have volcano, which is fire damage, and it spews out a bunch of projectiles. Now, unfortunately, these projectiles do not scale their area based on area of effect like our other skills do, but Volcano spews out enough projectiles, especially when put right on top of the enemy, to do plenty of damage, especially if the hitbox of the enemy is big. It gets a lot of overlaps that way. And that's on a 1.6 second cooldown, and it lasts like 6 seconds. And tornado also lasts like I think 6 seconds or something like that. And you can get a lot of tornadoes and volcanoes up. Those are our spammable cooldown recovery speed skills. Then our more clear oriented skills, we have Maelstrom, which is just a cold dot AoE around you. It's like tornado, but attached to the character. Makes running through makes running through maps a lot quicker, because it just helps you kill shit quicker, because you place that down in a tornado, and all of a sudden you have plenty of damage to kill most trash in the game, which is good. Even in higher tier maps, right? Cool. And then, of course, when you cast it, it also shoots out a ring of tornadoes as well, which does decent damage, but, it's just there for that passive clear. It also reduces the cold resistance of enemies. Then we have Fissures. Fissures is another fire skill. Fissure hits the entire screen with our area scaling, and it has absurd overlaps on single target. Pretty much our Fissures are just going to hit everything, and it's great. It's just extra clear when we need it and extra single target when we need it. Whenever we have a boss, we plop down a fissure, and with all of our area scaling and all our damage scaling, it feels pretty good. And all of these skills combined lead us to do plenty of single target on enemies. We are not crit focused, unfortunately. I could not really fit crit into the build, but that's not that big of a deal. Things that we care about: we are a dual element scaling build. We are scaling fire damage and cold damage at the same time. This means that we can't really get that reliable of sources of cold resistance shred or fire resistance shred, meaning that we can't really focus on that. But what we can do is focus on plus level scaling, percent damage, percent spell damage, and percent elemental damage. That's our bread and butter for this kind of stuff. We want generic modifiers that apply to all 4 of our skills at once. So we focus on all spell skill levels, all skill levels, stuff like that, right? and that helps out a lot. Of course, we also have a bunch of cooldown recovery speed on our gear as well, all the way up to 75%. Another thing that we've done to scale our damage further is we've run a node called, I can't remember the node. I think it's like chain reaction. Yeah. So the way chain reaction works is whenever you cast a skill, it's a notable on the soul tree that makes it so that whenever you cast a skill for the next 5 seconds, every single damage type other than this damage type of that skill you cast deals increased damage, like 50% increased damage, which if you're aware of how Diablo scaling works, that is a lot of increased damage. That means that, whenever we cast a fire skill, our cold skills do 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. And then when we cast a fire skill, when we cast a cold skill, our fire skills do 50% increased damage. This is really cool. Because we're constantly, flickering between casting Tornado and Volcano, it means that we have always this buff up, and effectively it's like 25% increased damage for free, which is cool. Other things with the build that we've been doing. Other than that, like, there hasn't been anything too crazy. You just scale cooldown recovery speed, scale area of effect. Other than that, like, nothing too crazy. But let's go in game and talk about everything in more detail, shall we? All right, so here we are in game with the character. I just want to let you know I am not good at Diablo, so if there's something wrong, if I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm scaling something wrong, let me know. Let me know and we'll fix it, right? I'm new. So let's go off first by talking about the skill tree. So first things off, this first thing I would heavily suggest grabbing is calculated risk. This increases your tornado's area significantly while in the campaign, and also increases your just AoE in general. This area is hella noticeable, especially with all the points leading up to it. You definitely want as much area as possible. Then we go down and we grab the leech, both leeches, so that, it can sustain us while in the campaign. Very strong early on and later as well. And then eventually we're going to grab nodes down here to get chain reaction for a lot of extra damage. Now, I just want to let you know, we are wearing an item that grants us chain reaction. Once you get Ormus's robes, you can actually dump your points from chain reaction, but eventually, you want the nodes until you get Ormus's robe. Then we go down here and we grab all this extra cooldown recovery speed. Very nice. One thing to note, we do want some attack and cast speed with this build, mainly FCR, because our skills may have cooldowns, but we are spamming a lot of them constantly, so we want as much cast speed as possible so that we can remain light on our feet. Less time spent casting means more time spent doing other things like dodging boss attacks and stuff like that. And of course, this is the pathing that we would choose instead of going through chain reaction, because it gives us a lot of extra elemental res. That's actually one thing that I found really annoying in this mod, is trying to cap your resistances. It's very difficult without, cucking all your damage. Then here, we're grabbing Elemental Aegis. It makes it so that we can block elemental damage, not only physical, but it reduces our block chance, but it gives us additional block chance per energy. Right now, I think I am at, let's see here, defenses. Where is it? Right here. I have 30% chance to block everything pretty much that is a hit, other than like poison hits, right? I believe, and maybe magic hits. I'm not sure. But like most things are either physical and elemental, so this blocks a lot, right? Then we go down here. When we grab Safeguard, we're spamming cooldown recovery speed, spamming cooldown everywhere, so it's just 15% more DR. Then we go and grab all these nodes up here, the potion cooldown. This makes it so that we almost have 100% uptime on our movement speed potion, as long as you get duration on it. This is very important because we are not playing a teleport skill currently. We don't have a teleport skill, meaning that we need as much movement speed as possible. And whenever you place Tornado down as well, I'll show you. Whenever you place Tornado, make sure to place Tornado ahead of you instead of behind you or next to you or whatever. You want to place it ahead of you. The reason why is because when we walk inside Tornado's AoE, as you can see, we're speeding Gonzalez. We're very fast, right? So we're very, 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 very fast. So you definitely want to be doing that. And that's pretty much it for the passives. If I had more points, if I had my last 4 points, I would probably, because I haven't finished the last stuff, because I haven't really dropped enough, I've not dropped enough stuff, unfortunately, enough maps. I would probably go towards the vitality scaling over here, or I think there's vitality. Yeah, here it is. We'd grab vitality here, which we'll talk about why in a moment. But that's the skill gems tree. So about the skills themselves. Right now, we're grabbing Tornado first. While leveling, we grab Twister, then we grab Tornado. Tornado is very strong, even while leveling. Just feels really good to use. And we're using Fissure on top of it. When you're leveling, you want to like kind of half and half the points. Half points in Fissure, half points in Tornado, because having Tornado and Fissure at the same time is better than not having them, because you just end up dealing that much more damage. Then later on, you grab Hurricane, which boosts your clear. You get this around like Act 5 and normal, and then you're zooming after that. And then Volcano is just for extra single target. And eventually, once you get like level 70-ish, you can grab Cyclone Armor and then start scaling the elemental resistances they give. And of course, Barrier. Barrier isn't as good as I would wish it would be, but it's like okay. Now, cast speed though, it also gives you a bunch of cast speed based on half our Maelstrom energy, and everything uses Maelstrom energy. Now you must be wondering, Dread, why are you running all these skills instead of like running Eye of the Storm or Armageddon and stuff like that? And my reasoning behind not running Eye of the Storm and Armageddon is like, it doesn't feel good enough to sacrifice all of that Maelstrom energy with the current setup that I'm having. These skills work a lot better when you're running like Twisters or something like that, or you're running like a spammable skill to generate Maelstrom energy and then expending it through something like Armageddon. It doesn't feel as good when you're using like cooldown recovery speed skills. And that's pretty much it for the skills. We don't really invest in the other trees because they don't really do much for us. Now, let's talk about the gearing. It's like the last part here. So first things off, I have a Tiamat's Rebuke on my Merc. He's giving me levels of auras, which help me cap my resistances. Right now, like they're terrible, but if we go out here, right, I can show you. Go out here, and for my Merc to get here, there he is. As you can see, we have a bunch of auras. Of course, that would get better if you spent more potent energies on this. But right now, we're not capped. But then when we put on our Cyclone Armor, we are capped on resistances there, as you can see. Still need a little bit of magic res, but like that's like whatever. We'd get better gear for that. But yeah, so that's the most important one. Everything else is just resistance and HP. Like it doesn't really matter too much what you get here. Just you want to get like, you know, the MF stuff, anything that like buffs your Merc. I'm not very legible with this mod, and I'm not legible with Diablo 2, so I'm sure there's better things to be running than what I'm running. And I haven't found really a weapon that I would want to put on him yet. Probably going to want to put on Insight on him later when we're done running Insight, but we're currently running Insight for a little bit until we get a better wand, right? But let's talk about the items. There are no mandatory items for this build. This build's like I started with this build, it scaled all the way into endgame, and I didn't need quote unquote anything. But the thing that was most important out of everything was getting stuff like this with level of all skills, cooldown recovery speed, and area of effect. You want as much area of effect as possible. The reason why is it increases your clear significantly. We have delayed damage, meaning that we want to clear as much as possible, as quickly as possible, but we can't do that if we're constantly having to recast Tornado. So being able to only recast Tornado once per room and then clearing the whole room is very important. So, you know, picking up cooldown recovery speed rings and then slamming them constantly is the way to go. You either want plus all skills or plus the spell skills. Either one is acceptable. You'd obviously want a better one than this eventually. Those are like, eventually you want a area. Wand like this, ignore plus levels on your wand. Ignore it entirely. It's not worth your time, or it is worth your time if you can manage to get it with these other mods. But what's more important than damage over time is area of effect. You can get a very large amount of area of effect on your wand, and you can also get a lot of spell damage and a lot of elemental damage. I crafted elemental damage on this, but yeah, like you want as much damage as possible, percentage damage in area. That is what you want. I also got Fire Leech's Life, which is cool. I'm currently putting Insight on my weapon for Meditation Aura, but that's not the correct one. Eventually, you want to be running Heart of the Oak, but I need a new one because I corroded this one, I believe. I think I did. Oh, no, I didn't. We can put it on right now. Actually, yeah, we can put it on right now. Yeah, we'd put on Legendary instead of Insight. Insight's really good, though, because it actually gives you cooldown recovery speed. But eventually, you'd want to put Heart of the Oak, because you can get a lot of regen, cast speed. And then what you can do is you can put this specific rune word onto your Merc instead, and you can get the benefit from that. Then on our helmet, we're running a Peasant's Crown. You and nearby allies gain increased damage based on 10% of your vitality. Right now, we have about 407 vitality. You want as much as possible. This is very good for us because it gives us a lot of increased damage that we normally wouldn't have access to. As you can see here, 40% increase. And it gives us a way of scaling even more increase into the end game. You want to be pumping as much vitality as possible and then swapping out runes with vitality runes whenever you can, and then getting percent vitality everywhere. Eventually you want percent vitality everywhere. Then it's get +1 to all skills, run speed, spell damage, vitality, energy. Energy is also good for us because it's also another source of percent damage. So like we get percent damage from our vitality inner energy. So we're kind of getting a lot from there, right? Then you want to put lore on it for now. At least that's the current one I have, because it has energy and +1 to all, all those plus levels. Because remember, every single time we get a plus level, it affects all of our skills at once. It is the most efficient way of going about it. You don't want plus fire to skills. You don't want plus cold to skills. You don't want any of that. You want +1 to all or +1 to spell. That is what you want. Then our shield here, +3 spell, vitality runes inside of it, HP. That's all you can really ask for. Right now I'm running Ancient's Pledge. I'm sure there's better shields, better shield rune words to put on there. Then for the chest here, I'm running an Ormus's Robe, like I said, to get chain reaction. +3 to cold skills. Like I said, it would be nice if it was +3 to all, but not a big deal. Cast speed, like I said, is important. Percent damages of both types. But yeah, 3 different percent damages, elemental damage as well, and then, HP, etc. And then we're putting Lionheart on it because all attributes is good for us. Life, res, like Lionheart's a very good rune word for this. Gloves here are, do not expect to get these gloves. These gloves are fucking absurd. They are bananas. Not only did I get +3 to spell skills, I got percent spell damage and percent elemental damage. Just absolute bananas. Just absolute bananas. Too bad I'm not playing a crit build, otherwise that crit multi would have been useful. Ring here, like I said, +2 to all. You want the cooldown recovery speed based on the rings. You want area. You want percent damage. That's what you want. The other ring just has +3 and it's on a cooldown base. It's good enough for now. Belt, I have +2 to spell skills, HP, resistances, right? And then boots, you want as much movement speed as possible, run speed, and then whatever else you can get on them, resistances, stuff like that. For gems and jewels, I just focused on ones with life and res. I focused on getting vitality where I can get it, more HP. In this mod, you can actually craft jewels very easily. You can go and you can drop jewels or, use like crafting materials on them and craft on your jewels. You definitely want ones with HP on them, and you want as much HP as possible. Same thing here. As you can see, I have a lot of jewels. So this would be your best in slot jewel. 5% increased damage, 5% increased damage, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's like your best in slot jewel. I don't know what else mod you'd get on there, probably resistance or something. Something like this, filling out all your slots or going for a vitality is the way to go, in my opinion, for this setup currently. And that's pretty much it for that. That's pretty much it for the Merc. I'm pretty sure that's it for everything other than this. Right now I'm running the Endarial one because we can run cooldown recovery speed all the way to 75%. Normally it's ineffective above 50%, but with this jewel, it gives us even more. And this is gotten by killing Endarial in Act 1 normal, and then you get the soul, and then you put the soul in, oh no, it's Mephisto's soul, I think. Yeah, it's Mephisto's soul. I'm sorry. It's Mephisto's soul in Act 3. Yeah, I'm dumb. It's before you finish normal, at least, right? Mana cost reduction is actually really good, so we don't have to invest anything into mana at all, which is nice. We don't have to invest it all into mana regen, which is very comfy. And then, of course, that gives it percent damage and cooldown recovery speed and all that. And it's just very good. And that's pretty much it for the build. That's pretty much it for the character. With all that being said, this has been Dread. Off to go do something else. Bye.